Okay, so for this review here, I'm doing something different. We're just going to do a top-down review of the all-new Apple iPhone 14 here. This is the regular 14, so the regular size. There is a 14 Plus, which is larger than what you have here. I believe 6.7 inches. This one is 6.1 inches. I didn't want to bother with like your typical long review where I do an edit and A rolls and B rolls, simply because there's nothing new here. There is literally nothing new with the iPhone 14. If you are in the market for this phone, why waste your time? Just go ahead and buy yourself the iPhone 13 and call it a day. This is what you get with the iPhone 14, the all new one. So if you're in the market for something like this, unless you're looking for, colors that don't exist in the 13 lineup, there's no need for you to go grab this guy here. Literally, I mean, you get some very marginal upgrades, and I really mean that. Now, on the other hand, if you were going for something like maybe the Pro here, that, on the other hand, I can tell you that, well, you get some physical changes, notably this thing right here, the dynamic island there is one of the newest upgrades that you have with that phone. But with this guy here, you get the same chipset, right? So it looks like some, changes on the inside to make it perform a little bit better than that of last year, but nothing drastic. Literally the same phone, except a different color, right? Sure, we have something with the camera, right? So you have some slight changes there in the way the camera works. Maybe slightly better pictures, but nothing that you can really notice or you can tell the difference to the naked eye. The notch, still there. Why did they even waste their own time making this guy? I don't understand. This is not even the equivalent of what an iPhone 6S or 7S or whatever it is, like that S model, the S trim. This is not even the equivalent of what the S trim was to the regular trim, when you compare this to an iPhone 13. So if you take the iPhone 13 and you say this is the S version of the iPhone 13, this wouldn't even qualify as an S version of that. Because if you look back at those days when we were getting like the 6S and so forth, the S model, the S trim, was more powerful than what you had with the quote-unquote regular version. This one doesn't qualify for that. But anyway, so you still get the same chip as last year. There's even no need for me to break this down in terms of, like performance and battery performance and all that good stuff when comparing that to the iPhone 13. So if you've seen or if you've watched any videos on the iPhone 13 in terms of review videos, then that's essentially what you get here. Very slight upgrades, right? Something like the battery, for example. I think the battery here, you get like 2 or 3% more battery here, which is literally nothing because it's going to cost you more money to get this one than to pick up, an iPhone 13. You also do have the fact that, here you don't have a SIM card anymore, an actual physical SIM card anymore. You have an eSIM. No more physical SIM tray, but instead you get an eSIM. That's one of the main differences you get with this phone here. Like I said, camera, a very tiny bit of a difference. Nothing worth it to the average user. If you really want a very, very good camera, or you want a camera that is better than what you have on the 13, on the regular iPhone 13, then simply go for the iPhone, for the Pro model, right? So 14 Pro or 13 Pro, whatever the case may be. So don't upgrade from the 13 to the 14 because you're trying to bump up the camera. The other thing worth mentioning here is to my specs people, right? So people who are all about specs, you got to know that here you do get a little bit of a spec bump in terms of the RAM. Right here you get 6 gigs of RAM as opposed to the iPhone 13 where I believe you get 4 gigs of RAM. So 4 gigs of RAM there, 6 here. And of course that doesn't mean that you get a tremendous amount of work done when compared to the iPhone 13. Because remember, these here with the interface that Apple offers, you don't really get to be at a super high level of multitasking. It's not like you have a billion things running in the background and then you're working on so many other different things at the same time, right? So 4 gigs, 6 gigs, you won't really notice that much of a difference. Obviously as this guy here coming out a year later than when compared to the iPhone 13, that simply means that it's going to be supported, up to a year later when compared to the 13. So the software update may require for your phone to have an additional 2 gigs. I'm not sure. This is just really stretching it and saying, trying to figure out if that 6 gigs really makes a world of a difference, but it simply does not if you're talking in just practical terms, right? So again, if you own an iPhone 12 or 13, don't go to the iPhone 14. That's just my take. But, you know, obviously if you want to go ahead and buy the phone, just go ahead and do just that. If you're on an iPhone 12 and you're trying to get to the 14, I would suggest for you to simply pick up the 13 because it'll be cheaper and you essentially get this phone, right? Unless, of course, you want like this color, or if you want other colors that are not available on the 13, then obviously that would make sense for you to go ahead and go for the 14. And again, like I mentioned, or if you just want to have the iPhone 14, you can simply go ahead and buy it one. And I really think this should do my review of the iPhone, you know, 14 here. I really did not want to waste my time to set up and film a video just to talk about a phone that pretty much has been out since last year. You know, obviously I'm being facetious, but this phone is essentially the same as the one that came out last year. And you see the same notch, the same gap that you see there, the same design, everything. You know, obviously Apple has not changed the design. They changed a few things with the Pro models, but here they haven't necessarily changed the design in terms of like just the way it looks physically. But my hope was that at least they will make the internal be drastically different when compared to that of last year, which they didn't. So this phone, to me, it's like, whether it's this one or the one from last year, it is essentially the same phone. So if you buy this one, it's as if you bought a phone that's been out for a year. So if you are just looking for something that you want to buy that's going to be supported a year longer than the iPhone 13, then feel free to go ahead and pick up this guy. Otherwise, no reason for you to buy this. I now even understand why when I was pre-ordering this phone, it was available, like it's been available, even if you were pre-ordering it up to the 15th of September, you still would have gotten this delivered to you the next day, you know, the 16th, the day it officially dropped. That's simply because everyone recognizes that this is simply not worth it. Unless, of course, you are coming from, you know, iPhone 6, 7, 8, whatever. If you're coming from a few generations in the back and you're trying to go up to this and you get some discounts with your carrier or something like that, then obviously go ahead and buy this one. By the way, I'm not saying that no one should buy this, but I'm saying that there are better, well, there is one better alternative, which is, you know, its own sibling, the 13, which is essentially this phone. So to me, it doesn't make much sense. Again, you know, the channel always leans more towards, you know, value, but to me, it simply doesn't make sense that you would go and buy this when you could buy the same phone, just a different color, for $100 cheaper, right? You know, you can even get the green. I believe last year they had the green model. So that's just my take on here. This is probably going to be the only video I make on this, besides, of course, the, you know, the other videos that I make for the cases, like the case that I have here, which is a Pitaka case, which, by the way, looks so sweet. It's a very, very nice case to have with this phone here. I really like it. But anyway, so that's just my take on the all-new iPhone 14 here. If you can, go for the 14 Pro. If you absolutely want just the 14, I would suggest for you to go for the 13 and just get, you know, a different color, because there's some colors that are available on the 14 not available on the 13. I would absolutely love to hear your take on this in the comment section, where I'm going to catch you. Don't forget, of course, to like, subscribe, share the video. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to catch you in that comment section. I'm also going to catch you in the next video. Up until that next video, of course, as always, stay safe out there.